Hello, I wanted to make a video today outlining the issues that I've ran into with Unreal Engine's Sky Atmosphere system and the solutions that I came to in order to make these really nice dramatic skies. Now we're not going to be talking about volumetric clouds today. That will be in the next video. But we're going to be talking about the sky atmosphere component and how the Skydome kind of like hooks into that properly. And hopefully we'll have something like this when we're all said and done. The first problem that I ran into is that if you have auto exposure disabled, like I do, because I find that it is tricky to set up properly and kind of overexposes my sky while underexposes a lot of like my scene stuff, and I wanted more fine control over what my sky looks like without having to worry about without having to rely on auto exposure in order to make these really nice pink sunsets. And so I found that if we just disable the Skydome for a second and the exponential height fog, you'll see that with just the sky atmosphere, when the sun goes below the horizon, we immediately get a very dark scene. Like there's this very subtle red glow that lasts for a tiny fraction of time after it goes below the horizon. And in my project, I want the sky to kind of have this like afterglow after the sun goes below the horizon and kind of like persist for a while. And so I couldn't find any settings in the sky atmosphere system to really improve that without causing other problems. And so like you can boost the light color, but that's not a really great solution. So what I've done is oh, that looks cool. That's not the Skydome we're going to be looking at right now, though, unfortunately. If we plop in this new Skydome that I made, it's very simple. In order to hook up to, actually, in order for a Skydome material to work, first of all, the material has to be set to unlit, and you have to have this is sky checkbox checked. And then you can grab the sky atmosphere view luminance and the light disk luminance for light 0, which is the sun. And if you just add them together, you will get exactly what the sky atmosphere system looks like. So I'm toggling the Skydome on and off. You can see there's no change, but when the Skydome is enabled, the mesh is technically blocking the sky atmosphere, but it's kind of recreating exactly what the sky atmosphere looks like, so you can't tell that it looks any different. But in order to boost this horizon color, what I like to do is add in a multiplier, sky glow color, the default value of 1, that we can boost over 1 in order to increase the intensity of what's left here. And then we also add on top of that another constant color, this light blue gray thing, and that kind of like boosts the black areas up to like this nice purple, right? And so you can see immediately we get an improvement, which looks really nice. We turn on back on the fog, and we get this fog in there too, and looks very nice and purple. It looks great. And so yeah, the kind of boosts this a lot as it's way below the horizon. But the problem with this now is that if we just go to daytime, this multiply and this add is making our daytime sun way, way, way too bright. So this is something that you would have to control based on different times of day. Hook it up to a blueprint or something to make it say, okay, at midday we want this to just be 1, and at midday we want this to be black, so we're not multiplying the sky by anything. It's just the plain old sky atmosphere, and we're not adding in any extra color. And now our sky is much nicer in blue. So you'd have to control that. I'm just going to hook it up to my time of day system and control these with curves and gradients as the time progresses. The other thing that I've noticed too is for midday with the sky atmosphere, I feel like this blue isn't blue enough. It's very washed out blue. And so in order to fix that, I just come in here with the Rayleigh scattering and kind of just like find a nicer color. Usually something like this is much nicer in my opinion. Much more vibrant. But the problem with that too is when we get to sunset time now, that new vibrant color makes the sky really green. And so that's another thing that I'm going to hook up into my time of day system, and at midday it's going to be really nice blue. As the sun goes down, we're going to kind of like tint this back down to this color to get that nice red glow. And so yeah, once we have this nice sunset, we boost this back up to 10, and then we add a little bit of like purpley something to that sky and drop this below the horizon. Right, we get this really nice pastel sky. So that's the first part of like how to fix that below the horizon glow that kind of isn't really by default available. The next thing I like to do is to put in some like streaky clouds, and that really catches the sunset light in a really nice way and makes them look like super, super dramatic. And it's not too complicated, but it does require a little bit of UV stuff. So I'm just going to go through that real quick. So what we need to do is we want to project a noise texture in the sky, and then we're going to color that. We could just push in any color, but I like to mask. I like to create a radial gradient around the sun so that the clouds that are closer to where the sun set are brighter, and the clouds over behind us are already dark. Otherwise, we're going to have just pink skies, pink clouds all the way behind us, and that kind of looks weird. Yeah, so in order to create some like skybox UVs, it's pretty simple. We just take the world position, if I can spell, and we normalize this, which gives us a direction from the pixel to the origin. And then we component mask this to RNG, since we only want the RNG components. And then we want to divide it by 2 components of a parameter. So we're going to component mask that to RNG, and this is going to be our skybox UVs. Skybox UV scale. This is going to control the amount of like stretch on the X and Z axis, technically, that the skybox is going to... yeah, so if we then run this through a fract node for a second and plop this to emissive color, we should see something. Oh, we see funky UVs. This is because we're dividing by 0. So if we make this 100 and 100, no, 0.01. Yeah, now you can see that we have a grid in the sky. But it kind of like distorts at the edges, which is unfortunate. So to fix that, we can kind of make like a virtual plane in the sky, not an airplane, like a flat surface that kind of has like a height above the world, and then it kind of like goes into the horizon perspectively. And to do that, we actually just take the world position Z and we divide it by this final value. So if we divide, and then we go to here, and then we go like this. I think that should work. This might be wrong. This might not be a good value. Might need to be smaller, bigger. I always get them mixed up. Well, let's just continue on. I'm copying over from a reference that I have. It might just be at the wrong height. So if we take this actually first, and we add nothing to it, and then we divide, and then we plug this into this final divide, right? And then we grab a constant that goes cloud height. If we plug this in, we can then change the height of this virtual plane. Don't know what's a good default value. We'll find something. I think I see something happening on the horizon. Yeah, there we go. So now you can see how we have like cloud UVs. And let's change the scale. I don't know if I need a big value or a small value. I always get those mixed up. 0.01. And yeah, so now if we use each one of these squares as a texture, use it to sample a texture, we can get some noise in the sky that kind of looks like clouds. And so if I texture sample some noise, I have this Perlin noise texture that I really like. It's just plain Perlin noise, but I went into Photoshop and I took the liquify brush and I kind of like smushed it around a little bit, so we get like these swirly shapes, which are pretty cool. But if we take that and then just plug the R into the skybox to visualize, you see that we get some swirly bits in the sky, right? And then we can use the skybox scale to stretch it out in one direction to kind of get like this streaky look, which I really like. But then the secret sauce that I really, really like is, you can see on the horizon here, it kind of like goes into infinity and it kind of groups up in a really gross kind of way. If we grab another constant and add a value to the z before we do all the dividing and stuff, it lets us bend this UV. Let's go back to the UV visualization for a second. It lets us bend these squares. They kind of like bend down past the horizon. Let me find the right value. It's not working. What the heck? There we go. We just need some massive value, apparently. Okay, you can see that it's kind of bending down. So this line now is kind of like curved. So yeah, that's one little trick that I like. It kind of hides this like going into infinity artifact that you get, which I don't really like. And I like the bendiness of it. And yeah, if we increase the cloud height, you can see it much better. How it kind of like bends down into the horizon, right? Whoop. Which is quite nice for this look that we're going for, right? So plug that in, and now we have some cloudy noise. Let me just look at the values that I'm using for. I'm using 0.6 and 2, which cannot be right. Horizon bend is going to be that value, and cloud height is going to be this value. There we go. So it gives us nice streaky clouds. It looks very dramatic already. But so we can take this noise and we can multiply it by some cloud color, right? To get colored clouds. We make them nice and pink, right? Now we're going to have the white bits are going to be pink. And if we take these clouds and blend them into the sky stuff that we were doing earlier, you get some really nice effect. So I am let's just add these together for a second and see what it looks like. Might be okay. And then we'll find a slightly nicer color, a nice little orange or something. Yeah, we already got something looking pretty cool on the horizon. We can turn on our fog again, and it kind of already looks very nice, right? Now there's some extra tricks that you can do with this, like I described, where you blend them into the atmosphere in a slightly different way, or like right now the sun was over here. Where's the sun? Sun's right here. But like the clouds way on the opposite side are still super bright pink too, which is like kind of weird. So you can fix that as well. And then yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I need to look at my reference because I don't remember exactly what the magic solution was for how I was blending them together. But we have a cloud color first of all. And we want a different color based on where in the sky it is, right? If it's close to the sun, we want it pink. If it's far from the sun, we want to kind of just blend it into the existing atmosphere. And so in order to get a radial gradient around the sun, we can just grab the sky atmosphere light direction for light 0. And if we take the dot product against the world position, oops. And then let's just, actually we want to normalize this. And then we want to run it through a frac node just for a second. You can see that we now kind of get a gradient. Let's turn off the fog. And so the sun is over here. And as it gets further and further and further away, it goes to 0, and then it goes to -1 over here, right? And so we can use this kind of as our gradient. We can take the dot product and we can saturate it, so we only want the values between 0 and 1. So that gets rid of the -1 side. So now we have the direction away from the sun, and we have the direction towards the sun. And we can use this. You could transform this. You could make it closer to black or brighter. You could fade off this edge in a different kind of way, running this value through a power node or whatever. I'm not going to do that for brevity's sake. I'm just going to put this mask into the lerp A. And now everywhere where the lerp is closer to white, which is going to be the B node, we're going to use the cloud color directly. And then everywhere on the opposite side, which is going to be A, we're going to use this second color. Well, cloud color 2 for a second, just for visualizing. We're going to make it like bright green. And we're going to use this into the multiply against the node. Noise. And we plug this back into emission. And you can see now that the clouds go from this bright pink, and then on the opposite side they go to this bright green, which kind of looks pretty cool, not gonna lie. And as the sun kind of moves around, right, you can see that that gradient is kind of like following, right? Which is pretty cool. But instead of actually multiplying it by a second color, we're actually just going to grab the background color here, which is like the background sky atmosphere stuff. And we're going to just say blend the clouds from pink into whatever the atmosphere is. So they just kind of like disappear perfectly, right? So now we have pink clouds up here, and then on this side, they are white. Why are they white? That's not right. Cloud color. Let's undo this for a second. I think I messed up. That's blue. This is... I feel like that should be correct. What am I doing over here? Sky atmosphere. Oh, we need to... Oh, right. This actually shouldn't be that. That should just be 1. Because we take this color and then we add it back here. And... Or should it be 0? I need to be 0. Yeah, there we go. So now that we have that nice streaky horizon, that fades off into the atmosphere perfectly back there, which is cool. Right? The reason this needs to be 0 is because we're going to lerp between bright pink or nothing, and then we add this back against the atmosphere. And so if we don't want to see the clouds, we have to make them nothing, you know? So yeah, that's that. And then in order to make these clouds kind of blend into the atmosphere a little bit better, instead of just taking the raw cloud color, what I think is a good idea is to multiply it by the sky atmosphere stuff. So we're going to actually change this to a named reroute and just call this background atmos, right? Just so we can copy and paste this up here. And so this is going to multiply this cloud color by the background atmosphere color too. So it will kind of like pick up this color gradient change on the clouds a little bit better. I might have to adjust our colors though. Yeah, because I kind of darkened them. But now the clouds are like multiplied by that horizon gradient, which looks pretty nice. Yeah, and so we can turn on our fog again. And now we got this really subtle but very gorgeous looking glow on our clouds. Maybe we can boost this color up a little bit. Make it super dramatic, you know? Or just a case of fiddling with values and finding something that you like. And like since these are just skybox UVs, before we add them into before we use those UVs to sample this texture, we can always just add to them to make them scroll, right? So how we do that is we create a parameter and call cloud scroll speed, and we're going to component mask the RNG out, and then we're going to multiply that by a time node that is multiplied by the blue channel. So this will be like X direction, Y direction, and scroll speed. And then we just plug it into here. And then we change this to 1, 1, 1. Now our clouds are moving. If we want to only scroll them in like one direction to the side there like that, we can do that, and then just decrease this to something a little more subtle, like that, maybe. Now we have those clouds scrolling along. And then another few extra cool bits. We can grab the cloud color alpha. Now we could use this to control like the intensity of this effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply the radial gradient around the sun with the alpha that we're plugged into LERP. And so that means if we bring this up or down, we can control the visibility. Right? It's pretty cool. And we can also grab the noise output from here, and we can shift this around to control like the coverage of the noise, dissolve away some of the clouds. Cloud coverage. And let's make this a slider between -1 and 1. And so if we need to saturate this as it comes out. Oh, we're at 27 minutes. But now we can kind of control like the coverage of this too. Right? We can make it a full overcast hazy sky, overcast hazy sky, or we can dissolve it away and just leave little bits, however you want. And of course too, you can do something smarter here, right? Like I have a, where is it? A cool texture that has different cloud types in different texture channels, right? So we have just kind of different shapes in the clouds, right? And so you could grab this, but instead of using the R channel, like we're pulling out here, you could take all three of them and kind of like combine them in a different way or using a different mask or something. Yeah, and you can get some really cool effects, right? Or you could sample this at different heights, and you could have these big bumpy ones way higher than the other ones, and yeah. So that's that. That's kind of how I'm setting this up. Like it looks really nice with these clouds here, because since these clouds are technically higher, even when the sun's down, when the sun goes down below the horizon, these big puffy clouds are going to get dark first, but the sun's still going to hit these clouds that are super high up. And so it kind of gives this really like nice depth to how these sunsets look, and I'm a very big fan. So yeah. there's our 30-minute ramble-y video about sunsets. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments or to ask them me on Twitter, which is probably where I am more active. And I post progress stuff like this as I'm working on it. And yeah, show me your cool skies. Okay, thanks. Bye.